Welcome to the second episode of Walk, Talk, and Brock, the only show at Brock where we walk, talk, and we also Brock. I'm the Brock Press Editor-in-Chief, Christian Roethling, and I want to introduce to you a special guest for the day. Hannah, take it away.
I didn't know we were supposed to be walking. I thought we were going to sit here the entire time.
The name of the show is it's a little misleading, but it's the best I can.
My name is Hannah, so I am the second longest running editor at the Brock Press after Christian. I've been here a long time, and I've been the arts editor the entire time I've been here. So 3 years of concert reviews, album reviews, theater reviews, all that fun stuff. It's what I live and breathe on. So I really enjoy it. I think it's a fun way to interact with the community. While I've been here, I've also been on the board at the Brock Press. So I've been on the board since 2023 as well. Lots of things have happened since 2023. I've been with them all. So hoping nothing big happens, but good things.
It's for those reasons that I couldn't think of a better, second guest to have on this podcast than you. You have plenty of experience here at the press. You helped out with the archiving a few years ago. That was a big thing. 60 years worth of history archived.
You guys can see it on the Brock Library, the Brock Library website of the Archive Special Collections section. They have pretty much all of our stuff archived at this point. They've been working on it for a while, but you can go check it out, see our digital archive. A lot of really good stuff there. A lot of ripe controversies and fun historical moments. So good stuff to check out over our technically 62 years of existence. I know we're in our 61st production year, but we actually should be in our 62nd production year. I will have that to be said. So.
And as you can probably imagine, being content written by 20-year-olds 60 years ago, it is all aged exceptionally well.
100%.
Oh, yeah, it is. That's why there's a big fat disclaimer at the top of the page. That was one of the most fun parts of going through that, though. That archive was, in the limited time that I was able to help with it, was seeing the things that, do and do not stand the test of time. It really is a piece of history. I recommend reading through some of those if you want a good laugh or gasp.
Yeah, there are a lot of gasps and a lot of laughs. Lots of things to enjoy. A lot of 1970s was a good period, I will say. If you're looking for an era to delve into, if 60 years feels a little crazy, I would recommend the 1970s. A lot of good editor-in-chiefs during that time period. A lot of good BUSU presidents. There's some really interesting BUSU presidents that time. It's all very fun, very 70s. So if you're looking for a good era, the 70s was definitely my favorite. It took me a long time to get through the 70s. I covered pretty much 1970 to 1980 in all of my archiving. I covered more than that, but in a span of about a month and a half, I covered all of the 70s. And it went on forever, but when it was over, I missed it. So if you're looking for something fun to read, I would definitely recommend going there.
And while we're on the topic of the archives, I do want to point out as well, there used to be like a lot of business advertisements in the press because we were a physical paper primarily back then. Of course, we do have ads on the website now, but they're all for student-run businesses. We don't charge them because we want to help out the student community and student entrepreneurs. But back then, in the days of old, it was a lot of, local pizza places and supermarkets and clothing shops. And it's really interesting to see, looking up those places and seeing which ones are still standing, which ones aren't around anymore. They have the addresses printed on them and you look it up and it's some random office building now. There were some on there, I think it was like, cut this coupon out and bring it in for a 10% discount from like 50 years ago. And if those papers were not 50 years old, I'd be tempted to
see if it still works.
I want to see would they accept the coupon from 50 years ago? Would they honor it? There's no expiry date, so I don't see why they shouldn't. Assuming their business still exists. So why don't we talk a little bit about a new endeavor that we're doing on the website that I know you're really excited about. I hope, actually. Okay,
Yes.
I'm excited about this too.
So, my new endeavor is something that I have come to affectionately call Campus Compass. So, I obviously have been at the press for 3 years. This is my third year here. And I've been doing all the same kind of things, writing about concerts, reviewing albums, going to see different productions put on at Brock, lots of fun stuff like that. But getting into a third year of that, you start to feel a little bit like stagnant because you're doing all the same things, and it's like you don't want to lose yourself to the stagnancy of what you're doing. So I was starting to feel a little bit like, oh, it's all the same stuff. I got to find something new to do, or else I'm going to get stuck. And as a writer, people out there who write, that the worst thing to do is to get stagnant. Like if you get stagnant, you're not going anywhere, you're not getting better, you're just getting worse. And so I also want to continue my growth as a creative person. And so I was kind of looking for something to try. And one night I wrote this piece about growing up. And it was really like philosophical and like inquisitive. And I was like, I don't really think this belongs anywhere at the Brock Press because we have sections like the news and arts and opinion, occasionally some analysis, some sports, but it didn't really fit anywhere in our traditional sections. So it was kind of like one of those things that I was like, I'm just gonna like throw it away. It's gonna sit on my desktop for like the next 10 years, and I'm gonna like pull it up occasionally, like, oh, that was pretty cool. I wonder why I never did anything with that, because I do that all the time.
We've all done that several times.
I was like, what am I going to do with this? Like, how am I going to use this? And I am very thankful to work in a place where we kind of find ways to take that interesting stuff and make it something. So we connected, Christian and I, to kind of figure out a way that, like, how does this fit somewhere? And I really am thankful to you that we did that, because I think it's really awesome. And I'm excited to kind of touch on these different things that we have going on as people. For me, Campus Compass, the first article, which is up now, is about growing up. And I think it's really special because a lot of people think about growing up and they're scared of growing up and they worry about growing up. And it's very scary to think about going out into that world and leaving behind the very like loving, warm memories of childhood. Because like childhood's awesome. Like if I could be a child forever, I would just never grow up. I would be like, I'd have to never pay tuition. But I was thinking about growing up and how weird it is to grow up. And I think this is probably something that everyone struggles with, but we do it in a really like solitary way as human beings. Like I am the kind of person that's like, oh, no one else feels this way. And so I'm going to be quiet about it because no one else wants to hear about the struggle that only I'm having. And what I've realized, I think, over time is that we all have these struggles in our own unique ways. And if we don't talk to one another about them, we all get caught in this like loop of fear and like discomfort. And I think that like talking with things that you worry about to other people is so beneficial. And you don't want to get lost in that. And I think Campus Compass for me is a way for me to not only speak my truth and kind of be like, this is how I'm feeling, but also give students a way to know that they're not alone in those struggles, whether they're here at Brock or they're at another university or they're like doing whatever. Like people our age are all thinking about this. And I want to give them a place and a way to know that it's not only them. They should talk and reach out and feel that we all feel this way and make human connection. Because otherwise we become solitary creatures, and that's not a good thing for human beings at all.
From my perspective, I remember when you approached me with that piece about growing up, and you said it didn't belong in any category, and reading it over, I think I agree. My first thought was that it might just belong in opinion, because I really liked it. I knew I wanted it to be published. That wasn't a question. But I think for me, I realized that it seems like you've been having a lot of these sorts of thoughts lately. You've been bringing more of this philosophical kind of writing to the table. And I wanted to give you a forum to express those things. I think it's beneficial for you, but like you said, also beneficial for the students. So as far as I know, the Brock Press has never had an advice column.
Very brief,
Oh, it did?
And it was like it was very variations of like advice. So like there was one section for a couple years where these two girls like answered like questions about people's love lives. Like they were like, my boyfriend like does this, and they were like, well,
Oh,
do this to fix the problem, or your boyfriend's a cheater and be gone with him. Like,
is that
I
is that the
hope
direction
not.
you're going to take Campus Compass?
I hope not. That
A
was fun.
dating column?
The letters to the editor was actually kind of like an advice column because they would write in with different things like on
Yeah.
campus or issues they had. Letters to the editor was a section of the Brock Press for a very, very, very long time. And people would write in letters to the editor in chief.
Yeah.
And the editor in chief would respond, like answering questions, usually about like stuff on campus or like stuff going on, paper, things we had covered. But in some kind of way, it was a bit of like a column where you could write in, like ask questions and look for guidance on certain topics around campus, and the editor would either respond really poorly, which is often the case. We had a lot of editor-in-chiefs who'd be like, boo-hoo, sorry, cry about it. We did have various versions of advice, but nothing that's like this yet.
Yes. Yeah, now in terms of letters to the editor, we don't have that now, but you have the Brock U subreddit now, so take your pick for where you want to air your grievances. So this is apparently, I've just learned, not the first advice column, but it is, I think, maybe the first like this, where it's more philosophical based. And that to me was an exciting prospect. It's also unique for me and my time at the press to see a section that is only open for one person to write to. And that's not done as an exclusionary measure, because I do want people to feel like they can write, virtually whatever they want, with only some limitations, as long as it makes sense. But having something like this where it's only open to one individual, I think it just makes sense. There's sort of a sanctity to this Campus Compass mini section now, which is going to be kind of underneath the opinion section, like in a subsection. But it helps it to feel uniquely yours, I think, and bring your voice to it, because you have had a unique voice in your articles, I think, for a long time, even in the arts ones where you would go to different concerts, different live shows, and you would write from your own perspective, kind of a first-person perspective of what it was like to be there rather than a traditional review. And sort of that unique voice, I thought, deserved to have its own section. Yeah, I'm really happy that this is coming to life.
Before I started here at the press, I had never done anything journalistically. I had written very creatively for many years. I'd written an article that had been published in the Globe and Mail, first-person essay. But when I ended up applying for this job, I had nothing to put on my resume that was like journalistic. So when I came to approach this job, I didn't really know what my voice was going to be because I hadn't developed one that was very news styled. And thankfully, as an arts editor, you have a lot more room to kind of grow your voice and to expand your voice and be in news. We're very like factual and impartial because that's the news. Like it's like you're looking at album reviews and you're breaking down songs and different things. But you're like, I think, well, maybe you are. Maybe you're like, I think this is really bad. I've written articles like that before. I'm like, this is terrible. I nothing about this is good. But they're not nice to write, but I have written them. But all this to say that I kind of went into it with a voice of my own, where I tried to take what I knew about myself as a writer and find a place for it here. And I've done that, I think, and I'm really proud of that as a person and as a writer. But I'm just very proud of the way that we have grown. I love to see new arts editors who come in and they write now, and I think we've opened a bit of a door, like as a company and as an entity, where I get to have voices that are a little bit more not streamlined. Like we've even created the analysis section, right, which is a subsection of news, where you get to explore the opinion you have or the analyses you have about news. And so I think it's really interesting that we have grown so much. And I've been here 3 years, and we've grown so much in those 3 years. And I think we're all so very lucky to have the opportunity to have that voice.
I am too. I mean, I see news and arts as, like you said, they are totally different. News is kind of a separate, I think I said this earlier already, but it's kind of a separate beast to the whole rest of the publication, in my opinion. This objective tone is something that is really hard to narrow down, and it takes time to understand what it means to be totally objective. Because as a writer, and I speak from personal experience, You know, you just want to put your opinions in there, even if you're trying not to. They find their way in, they slip in, right? Or you could say something that's totally, seems totally obvious to most people, but is still technically an opinion. Like, for example, if we're talking about a new food program or something that is giving, you know, breakfast to students with food insecurity, right? It's very tempting to write, you know, in that article, this is a great program that helps out lots of students. But in news, you have to be very careful to just stick to the numbers and the stats and the facts and avoid words like great, unless they're in a quote, right? Whereas in arts, you have more of that freedom. You know, the arts section has never and will never be objective. That's not the point of the section.
I write album reviews and I go, I didn't like that. But someone else might listen to the same album and go, I love that. I have the way I interpret music or movies or drama or whatever I'm kind of interacting with, whatever medium, is an opinion, because I am developing what I know about music or whatever and kind of shooting out what I think is right about this piece of work. When we talk about opinion, like I think of like a clear cut, like this is my opinion and I'm writing a full article about it. Yes. Whereas I think arts have so many opinions at once. Like I just finished writing an article where I was like, I gave it was a song review and I gave the song a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was called My First. It's by a woman named Olivia Barton, which is funny because my last name is Barton. We are not related by any means, but I think it's actually even more funny because my middle name is Livia. She was writing about like going to see her first house again, like her childhood home they moved out of, and she was like going back to see it and kind of like interact with the new owners. And the song itself was really beautiful, like lyrically, but the music was very simple. And she talked about how she'd done the song in one take, and it had been like just her and the piano, one take before that was it was on the album. And I felt that the song deserved a little bit more production. I was like, there's something missing here that I feel is not quite there. And so I formed my opinion based on the fact that I was like, musically, I feel like there's something lacking there, but I could have multiple opinions. I'm like, I think lyrically, it was beautiful. Right. I think lyrically, it's a stunning piece of music. I think musically, it needs a little more work. So that's the cool thing about art, so that you can have various different opinions in the same article, and it's not contradictory, and it's not like really confusing. It's just what arts is. It's like this really interesting subsection of the newspaper that is like very different than anything else we do. And I mean, I've loved being in it for 3 years. I think it's a great section. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I have written in every section, including that one sports article I did. Yeah,
you have. I don't know if I've even ever written. Have I ever been in sports? Andrea, have I ever been in sports?
I don't think so.
No. Yeah, I think you've been in sports more than I have. So congratulations on that.
Not necessarily something I'm well versed in. So I'll leave that to Alyssa and Jonah, who are our sports editors. They're good at what they do, and I will let them continue on that pathway because I'll just butcher it.
I have got to get the two of them in here for an interview. It'd be fun for a podcast. It would be fun to see if I can get both of them for one. Yeah, that would be great. Okay, write that down, Andrea. Let's get both of them in here together for the sports episode. While we are on the topic of arts, you have another sort of category of articles that I like to talk about to people at the press. They are, you know what? I will actually say without exaggeration, they are our most popular articles. I was going to say that kind of like jokingly, but then I realized, no, that's actually statistically true.
Yeah.
And that is the 21 Pilots articles, because apparently there are tons of people who are super interested in their lore.
I went to the 21 Pilots concert, and there were like so many people there that are like so invested in this like story they're telling. So 21 Pilots is a band. It's been around since like 2009, I think. I love this band. I've loved them for like years and years and years and years. But in about a decade ago, they put out an album called Blurry Face. And Blurry Face doesn't necessarily have anything to do crazily with The lore, a couple songs like now tie in, but we consider it to be about a decade of lore. This band has been building, these two guys have been building for like 10 years, this like story. And they've built this like fantastical world with like bishops who are like evil and these like rebellious banditos and all of this fun stuff, right? But to me, it comes down to the story is about mental health. And Twin Paths has been huge about mental health in their time on the scene. Tyler Joseph, who is the singer of the band, has been very, very, very open about his struggles with mental health. Majority of the music that they have written throughout the years, I mean, now as they've gotten older and started families and kind of become more stable, I think they've been writing other things, but the first like 3 albums they wrote were huge about mental health. And so the story for me that I cover is a lot of fun, and a lot of people really enjoy the articles. They're big hits. They're about the lore. Yeah, they're about the story that they're telling. The best part about it has been getting to explore what it means to take mental health and the struggle with mental health and put it in a format of like storytelling, because you never really see that. And as someone who loves to write, I think that was really cool for me. From Pilots was like a band that I loved and got me and a lot of people through like struggles we all had growing up with, you know, your teenage years where you're really tumultuous and there's a lot going on. You're experiencing your first moments of familial death and grief and, you know, like so many hormones. You're struggling with like anxieties and different things. And so they truly are really good about that kind of thing. And I really loved connecting with the community through these articles, because the amount of people that would reach out and be like these are awesome. And I was like, wow, that's amazing.
How many people do you think have sent you an email because of these articles?
Because there's 5 of them.
That's something. Wow.
There's 5 different articles that have spread out again across like basically my entire time here at the Brock Press. Like they started, I think, my first year, and then or maybe the very beginning of my second year, if not. Throughout that time, just like I get emails from people, and people really enjoy the series, and that's really fun for me because I didn't think it was going to amount to anything. I thought it was going to be like a really fun passion project where they're like letting me just do something that I wanted to do, and they're like, oh, whatever. She's just writing about crazy things. Like let her do what she wants to do.
And the Trench one has, as of recording, just under 34,000 views, which is incredible. Yes, like 33.7 thousand. But the other ones have done well too. I mean, Scaled and Icy has almost 18,000. I want to be clear that like at the Brock Press, we don't have any like view quotas or anything, right? Like an article is allowed to, I hate to use this word because it's not really considered that way, but an article is allowed to flop in terms of not getting a lot of views. That's fine, right? We all write different stuff and some take off and some don't. But when there's something like that where it hits like 30,000, I feel like I do have to kind of take a moment to be like, that's awesome. You know, it's funny that you mentioned that article you weren't expecting to do very well, because one of my most viewed articles was the same. I actually wrote this one with the full expectation that it would do poorly. It was like the same month too, or the same couple of months that you wrote that. It was my Rovio article, which, for the unacquainted, that's the company behind Angry Birds.
You were really...
and I wrote basically a piece on them about why I don't like them. Long story short. I had a lot to say about Rovio, and I thought, you know, who cares about this company that was a big thing 15 years ago, right? Like, no one cares about them anymore. But it turns out I was wrong, because this one got 15,000 views.
I think...
Yeah.
Like, I struggle a lot with, like, writing stuff and being like, oh my god, I'm putting this on the internet for people to look at. Like, that is horrifying to me. The idea that, like, I put stuff up on the internet and people from now until God knows when will be reading those articles. And it's there forever. And so
once you put it up, it's there forever.
And so it's funny to me that, like, the things that I think about really intricately, and I'm like, the wording on this, or this particular sentence or this paragraph it has to be this way because I'm like, people are going to see it. And then it was that silly little thing that I didn't think anything about and was like, oh, it's going to be what it is. And I don't really care because no one's going to see it. Like, that's the thing that everyone's looking at. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I would never have thought the things that I put, like, like, ooh, like, work into. And then it's like, gets 3,000 views. I'm like, oh. But, like, 21 Pilots, people really like it, man.
People like that one. My theory, I don't know about the 21 Pilots one. My theory with the Rovio one for why that one ended up doing well was, I think I was right that not many people care about this topic about Rovio, but the people that do are like very passionate about it. That's my theory. So I think that it probably made its way around like little, like probably Discord circles or something of like Rovio haters. I don't hate Rovio, for the record.
A new album was coming out, if I remember correctly. And so they were adding on to the lore. And so people were like, damn, I don't remember anything about what happened like so long ago. It'd been a long cycle between albums. And they were like, I don't remember what's going on. And so these articles just started popping up at the right time. So we're like catching up on what they had missed out on. And I want to shout out. There is a Reddit out there, and she was this person. I don't know who they are, but when you look up 21 Pilots lore, usually that's the first thing that pops up. It's this Reddit, and I want to shout them out because they did a really great job of compiling it in a very like simplistic way, so that I could find all the links and then expand on it. Like, they had all the links compiled to all of the different like parts of the lore that had kind of popped out throughout the years. It was like, it's like 2 mega threads of like this person who has built this thing. And I was like, you are a godsend and you have really helped me in creating these articles. So I got to give them a shout out because I don't know what their username or whatever is, but they were awesome.
Reddit is, I will say, an extraordinarily helpful tool sometimes because people on there are very passionate. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying I'm not saying we source Reddit for news, okay? I caught myself. I said they're a very helpful tool, and then I realized the Brock Press says Reddit is a helpful tool. Being a headline might not look the best. I just mean in terms of people who are passionate about like arts or opinion topics when you're writing about something nerdy. They know what they're talking about, and sometimes they can point you in the right direction. I would know from my video game articles because Reddit is helpful. I wrote an article, I will read you the title, so you can go to the website and read my factually correct statement, if you please, called Why Dogs Are Better Pets Than Cats. And I wrote this as mostly kind of a joke. I do believe it, but also I went a little bit overboard with like kind of the snark of this article.
That's terrible.
Unfortunately,
so
that became my most viewed article.
We're in the process of covering an unfolding story right now. I had the opportunity to go and speak to some people at a protest that took place inside the student alumni building and then just outside the student alumni building. And it was really interesting. It bloomed out of Reddit. So the Busu or the Brock subreddit is a thing, and I am not an avid Reddit user, but
Brock use subreddit
became this like when you go into the Brock subreddit, this like problem people were having was like just running rampant, and it was like people were like, why are the moderators getting rid of these comments? Like it was like every 5 minutes, like a new post being made, and out of it bloomed a protest that was directed towards the student union, and it's still very much of a developing story. Like you're writing the article, so like I don't know what you could speak to, like how developing it is, or
well, I mean, I have to be totally transparent that there's not much I can say right now, just because I am writing an article about this as of recording. Obviously, that is not out yet. Maybe by the time this goes up, it will be. I don't know for sure. But, you know, there's a lot of work to do on a case like this because clearly students are upset. And I want to take time and, diligence to make sure that all the facts are reviewed. You know, talk to whoever I need to talk to. You know, you went and did a great job covering this protest, which I really appreciate, and that will most likely be mentioned in the article. I don't see why it wouldn't be. But yeah, it's difficult because I don't want to say anything publicly right now about a case that's, you know, a big deal and developing. But yes, I think it is important to say that, you know, the broad press, we are aware of it, and it is an article that we're working on. It's just important to maintain in a news piece, like I said earlier, I'm glad we touched on this because we already talked about the news tone, as I call it, maintaining impartiality, objectivity, going over those facts, rather than saying blank is good or blank is bad, for the same reasons I talked about earlier, right? So there's a lot of work to be done. It is a daunting task. I've put my editorials on hold for the time being, which is a little unfortunate.
But we are also a student-centered newspaper, and we do try our very best to kind of pick things that we think students would like and are in the demographic of students, especially those at Brock. So, you know, like for us, covering this, an emerging story, and there's a lot to figure out still, but we want to be clear that we are covering this for you, so that you don't feel like we're like behind the times. These students, if you didn't know, students pay for us to exist, and we are so thankful that they do. We love our jobs and we love to exist for you. So we are covering those things and those campus-wide news items to get the story out there so that people do know what's going on and can be informed as possible. But in order to be informed, it has to be the right information, and we have to kind of find that information as time goes on.
This isn't one that I'm interested in rushing out the door for time's sake. It's one that I think is very important. You know, the students have shown that it's important. We recognize the importance that this has to students, and we are by the students for the students. And that's why I firmly take the stance that it is important to cover these difficult topics that students care about. Regardless, I mean, we still have a lot of regular stuff coming out on the website. You are still churning out Arts and now Campus Compass articles. And of course, we've got plenty of other writers writing great topics as well. As our time on this episode comes to an end, I thought it might be fun if, for our podcast listeners, you and I go over some of the names for Campus Compass that did not make the cut. Okay. I thought that would be a fun thing to laugh at.
Like kind of really bad. Like Campus Compass was like the okay one. I also had Badgered, which I'm so thankful we didn't go to with, referring to like obviously Boomer. And if it had been more like an advice column where people were writing in, maybe that would have made more sense because like you're badgering me with like what you need advice for. Growing Pains felt like too self-explanatory.
I said maybe not on that one because it felt too limiting.
Yes.
Because you're not always going to want to write about what it's like to grow up. There's plenty of topics right now.
But ultimately, we ended up with Campus Compass. Christian's input on this was "So Help Me, Hannah," in honor of his grandmother.
It works.
Hopefully, not in reference to
my grandma would always say, "So help me, Hannah." And I was reminded of that. And I was like, oh, you know, it's a column by Hannah. She's giving help. You know, maybe students want, you know, help me, Hannah. I thought it was fun, but I think Campus Compass is a little better. Well, I think that is about all the time. I'm going to close my laptop so it's official. About all the time that we have for this episode of Walk, Talk, and Brock. I want to firstly remind our listeners that you can catch all these articles that we talked about on brockpress.com. I probably sound like a broken record. It's only the second episode, but we have so many great writers writing for news, arts, sports, opinion. There's analysis, and now there's Campus Compass. So come onto our website, read some of those. In between your Reddit doom scrolling, we're also taking volunteer articles. So if you want your voice to be heard by the student body on a forum other than Reddit, you can give us a try. We are accepting articles for any of those different sections. Check out our website for more information on that. But okay, Thank you so much, Hannah. I appreciate you being here. All right. See you next time.